Another year has come and gone when it comes to film, and this year was particularly fantastic. 2023 was an incredibly strong year and a movie year that was so difficult to quantify that this is going to be a much longer list than usual. There are 20 movies that have made the best movies of the year list, and there are honorable mentions as well. But before I get to all of that, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody. This year has been incredibly transformative, a very expansive year as well, and a lot of career breaks that happened. And I'm so happy for all of the support and love that you guys have given me. I'm glad that you guys have been enjoying whatever's been coming on the channel, and I hope to keep delivering in the best ways possible going into 2024. There's still a lot more to do and a lot more that I can't wait to share with you guys, and thank you so much once again. Now, before I get into the list, like I mentioned, there are honorable mentions, so I'll be getting to those first, because these were also really great movies, but unfortunately, they didn't quite make the cut this time, but I still want to give a shout out to them because I had a great time watching them. Starting with Talk to Me. This was a really great movie and a really great audience experience as well. I loved watching this with a big crowd, and I can't wait to see what the Raka Raka team does next, and I had a very good time with this. Maestro, directed by Bradley Cooper and also starring him and Carey Mulligan, was a movie that I really enjoyed. It didn't quite make the cut this year, but I do recommend checking it out. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This was one of the biggest surprises of the year, and I've seen it a couple of times since it came out. Had a wonderful time with this movie, a very enjoyable film, and a very wonderfully cast movie as well. Extremely funny throughout. The Creator, which I know was a divisive movie for a lot of people, but I thought it was a very enjoyable time at the movies and a wonderfully visually created world. I do recommend giving a chance. Whether or not you like it, I'm not sure, but worth a shot nonetheless. No One Will Save You, which was actually the most divisive review I did this year. It was a movie that I really liked, which despite a very polarizing ending, was extremely riveting throughout, with a great performance from Caitlin Dever and great direction from Brian Duffield. Asteroid City, directed by Wes Anderson, which I did not review, but I did quite like. I thought this was a wonderfully done movie, and a movie with a very interesting message at the end of it and how it wanted to perceive, make you perceive certain moments. And so I do recommend giving that a shot as well. Priscilla, directed by Sofia Coppola, which was also wonderfully done and with great performances from Kaylee Spaney and Jacob Elordi, both of them doing an excellent job, and a wonderfully crafted movie overall. Fair Play, which is also on Netflix, was an incredibly intense drama thriller taking place in the office and handling some incredibly dark and viscerally intense themes, and a movie that I was captivated by throughout. Polite Society, which was one of the big surprises of the year for me, was wonderfully acted and directed. Really great sequences and very vibrantly done moments, and a movie that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't yet. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. One of the best Marvel movies that I've seen of the entire roster that they've done in the MCU. It's also a really great conclusion to James Gunn's trilogy, and it's the best live-action Marvel movie that I saw this year. As you can tell, that's not every movie that I could get to. There are some things that I haven't seen this year because it was so loaded. Some things have maybe been left to the side. But without further ado, let's get into the actual top 20 movies of the year. I'll go a little fast because there's a lot to get through. Starting off with number 20. At number 20 is Blackberry, a movie that I actually did not get a chance to talk about, but I really enjoyed watching. I saw it a few times, in fact, and I think it's wonderfully done. Matt Johnson directs it really well, with great performances from himself, Jay Baruchel, and especially from Glenn Howerton. He's really great in this. There's a moment which I'm sure has gone viral now, the one where he's talking about Waterloo, where he's definitely channeling a bit of Dennis Reynolds. Really great stuff. The movie was extremely riveting and interesting, and one of the better movies I saw this year. Number 19. At number 19 was Air, directed by Ben Affleck, and a movie that I have reviewed. I think it's a really great story which is told exceptionally well, with some great performances once again from Matt Damon, Affleck himself, Viola Davis. Chris Tucker is also really great in this movie, and I had a wonderful time watching it, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's one hell of a movie. It's incredibly riveting and very well written. Number 18. At number 18 is May December. This was directed by Todd Haynes, and I actually saw it much before it actually dropped on Netflix, but I didn't review it because I didn't really know what to say at first. An incredibly uncomfortable film to watch at times, but also rivetingly done by Haynes, and with some amazing performances from Julianne Moore, Natalie Portman, and especially Charles Melton. It's again very uncomfortable, but definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. It's on Netflix right now, streaming. Number 17. At number 17 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. This movie was delightful. Kelly Fremont Craig, who also did The Edge of 17 some years ago, once again brings that flair to the screenplay. Abby Ryder-Fortson as Margaret was great, but Rachel McAdams as her mom, Benny Safdie as her dad, and Kathy Bates as a grandmom were also incredible in this. There were some incredibly funny moments also throughout, but also a very poignantly told story about growing up and being much more mature in the years, and, you know, also the changes that come along in life. Number 16. At number 16 is Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig. This was the biggest movie of the year, and a lot of people really loved this movie, and I did as well. A wonderfully told and very unexpected story, and Greta Gerwig, and co-written with Noah Baumbach, they've done a really good job of realizing this world with fantastic performances from Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling. America Ferrera is really great in this movie, especially. Wonderfully done stuff, and a movie that I really enjoyed watching, and reviews on the channel if you want to check that out as well. Number 15. At number 15 is Jawan. Shah Rukh Khan had 3 movies this year. This, Pathaan, and Dunki. I've seen all 3 of them. This is easily the best one of the lot. Very well done and extremely action-packed with some incredible moments. Performances are fantastic. The music's really great. I hope they make another one. I don't know if they will, but honestly, I will show up day 1 for that. Number 14. At number 14 was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I thought it was wonderfully animated and a movie that was just so very entertaining. You know, the people involved in making the film really loved these characters, and that translated to the screen beautifully. There were some wonderful sequences with them that just absolutely do shine. It was a wonderful experience, and one that I do recommend checking out if you haven't yet. Number 13. At number 13 was The Killer, directed by David Fincher, and a movie that was really great, doing things in a very unexpected way and constantly breaking tradition. It takes the various perfection tropes that come with characters such as Fassbender's in this and essentially plays them in a different way in order to, you know, create an experience that almost makes a little more realistic sense. It's all wonderfully executed, and it is one of my favorite viewing experiences of the year. Number 12. At number 12 was The Boy and the Heron, Hayao Miyazaki's potentially last movie, although I don't think that's gonna happen. A gorgeously animated movie with some incredibly poignant and hard-hitting themes, and maybe the darkest Ghibli movie to date in terms of how it handles those themes. It's a movie that is dealing with this idea of loss and grief and processing that and moving on in some really wonderful ways, and also reflecting on legacy of those people who surround that world and essentially what they're leaving behind for future generations. It's a beautifully done movie, and one that I recommend seeing maybe twice, because maybe the first time you don't know what you're going to get, but the second time, once you have some clearer ideas, it really does hit in a more profound way. Number 11. Number 11 I did not review, but I'm gonna talk about it now because it's the last movie I saw this year, and it was The Holdovers, directed by Alexander Payne and with Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, and Devin Joy Randolph. This movie was wonderful. Giamatti gives one of his best performances in years. He was fantastic over here. It's wonderfully written and directed, and just leaves you with that warm, fuzzy feeling, despite the darker undertones that are there throughout the movie. But that's a lot of Alexander Payne movies. There are things going on beneath the surface with characters that do add to some of the tragedy that they're going through in their personal lives. Now that brings us to the top 10, which was incredibly hard to do because there's a lot of movies in this list which are so great, but you know, you can't have them all be on the top. But without further ado, here we go. Here's starting off with number 10. At number 10 is a dark horse entry of sorts into the top 10, and that is The Iron Claw. Sean Durkin does a great job of giving you a film that is exciting and heartbreaking by the end of it, and so profoundly sad that you can't help but feel extremely broken by the time it's over. Fantastic performances from everyone. Zac Efron is so good in this movie, and it's a wonderfully directed piece of film, and I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. It's a movie that is very, very special and very, very well done, and it is among the best movies I've seen this year, period. Number 9. Let's just take a second over here and acknowledge the fact that even after 7 movies spread out across almost 30 years, Mission Impossible is still going strong. It is absolutely incredible that even at Dead Reckoning Part 1, we're getting some incredible stuff that is just pushing what film can do and what people involved in making that film can do. It's a movie that is incredibly riveting and one of the best Mission Impossible movies, and Tom Cruise is still just an insane guy jumping off a cliff on a bike. The only thing that upsets me about it is really the fact that it's not done super well, but that's because there were these 2 juggernaut movies that came out around that time, only usurped by one other action movie this year that I saw a little before that. And that particular action movie is John Wick Chapter 4. This hasn't left my top 10 since I saw it in March. This is a fantastic conclusion to the storyline. I don't know if they're gonna make a John Wick 5 or 6 or whatever, but I honestly don't think they should, because the ending to this massive behemoth of a movie, 2 hours and 49 minutes, I was absolutely blown away by. It's actually one of the movies I've rewatched the most this year. Beautifully filmed with some of the best cinematography this year. Hope that gets some recognition. And the stunt team has done an incredible job with bringing this story to life. Number 7. At number 7 is a movie I did not review so far, and that is Anatomy of a Fall. A story that follows a woman who is on trial as the primary suspect in her husband's death after he falls off the roof of their house. The movie is essentially a slow burn at first, setting up the different circumstances that could lead to her being a primary suspect, and the different things that were going on in the background that led to their relationships, sort of crumbling apart over time, and eventually leads to these 2 very extended courtroom sequences that are so riveting and so intensely done, and Justine Triet does an incredible job directing them. Sandra Hüller is fantastic. I hope I got that pronunciation right. It's one of the best performances of the year. It's one of the best written movies of the year. Number 6. This one's even more of a surprise compared to the other movies, because never in my wildest dreams did I imagine a Godzilla movie making my top 10 of a year. But here we are, it's in the top 10. I couldn't get my eyes off the screen during Godzilla Minus One. Visually incredible, yes, but also incredibly poignant with some really great human characters, which is oftentimes the thing in Godzilla movies and shows that can hinder it. But in this case, it was a huge service to the storytelling and wonderfully done. I can't wait to see what else they're gonna do with this continuity. Hopefully there's more coming, and I absolutely was riveted by Minus One. It is one of the best movies of the year. It's one of the most poignant movies of the year, and it's one of the most beautifully done movies. Just go check it out. Number 5. We're now entering the tail end of this list, and that brings us to a movie that I just saw recently, but it's definitely one of the year's best, and that was Poor Things. Emma Stone is a phenomenal actress. I think over here she gives her best performance to date. Bella Baxter is such a wonderfully realized character, and by the end of that movie, you've gone through such a journey with her in terms of her life that I was absolutely blown away by what Yorgos Lanthimos was able to do with this story. A fantastic film, and definitely a movie that deserves all of the love that it's been getting. Beautifully filmed and written with some great supporting performances as well. One of the best scores of the year as well. Is a wonderfully crafted piece of entertainment and one of the best movies of the year. Definitely check it out if you haven't yet. Number 4. Number 4 I did a short review of, but again, a movie that is just beautifully done, and that is Past Lives. This is another one that has just not left me since I've seen it. Celine Song wrote and directed this so wonderfully. This is one of the 2 Greta Lee movies on this list. We'll get to the second one in a second. But she is so great in this movie, as is really everybody in it. Like, John McGarry is also fantastic in it. And it is such a wonderfully crafted story with some gorgeous writing. It is such a wonderfully and profoundly told story once again. And the idea of, what could have been in the lives of these two people, but also what has come since then. And looking at life in this very interesting way and in a very emotional way. And I highly recommend seeing it if you haven't yet. It's been online for a while now. It's also on disc, but it absolutely deserves to be in the list of the best movies of the year, and it is a very special one. Now, the next three movies are masterpieces to me. They're perfect movies. I have absolutely no issues with them at all. They're just that good. Now, with that in mind, you can change them around however you want to if you want to do some ordering later on. But without further ado, let's get into it with number 3. Killers of the Flower Moon. This was phenomenal. Martin Scorsese directed one of his best movies, I would say, ever. It's a wonderfully done film with some incredible performances from Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, but especially Lily Gladstone. Heartbreaking story, in fact, just an incredibly tragic, and Scorsese does a really great job of making sure that it is realized in the most brutal way possible. A movie that is incredibly timely even now, and there are things about it which connect to today as well, and they are just as affecting and just as, tragic as they were then. Number 2. I told you there are 2 Greta Lee movies on here, Past Lives and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, she's Lila. Across the Spider-Verse is just a visual marvel. I couldn't even begin to describe this movie until I just had to get some applause out of the way even in the review. This was a magnificent film that just absolutely managed to hit every single note correctly. And it is so profoundly done, and it is such a wonderfully realized Spider-Man story. And between this and Into the Spider-Verse, what we have here are the makings of a truly phenomenal trilogy. Across the Spider-Verse is such a wonderfully done piece of work, and it is one of the best movies of the year, one of the best comic book movies I have ever seen, top 3 of all time, honestly. And it's a movie that is one of the more special experiences that I've had with a comic book film ever, and I'm glad that a lot of people enjoyed it as well. What could it be? There's one movie that has evaded this entire list so far, both in honorable mentions and all of the things I've mentioned. There is only one movie left. You guys have already guessed what it is, so at this point there's no point in beating around the bush anymore. It's Oppenheimer. I saw this 4 times in theaters, and it's the most I've seen a movie this year in theaters. I saw it thrice when it dropped on 4K, including a few days ago. I can honestly say that Oppenheimer is a movie that just gets richer and richer with every viewing experience. And it is, in my opinion, Christopher Nolan's finest work to date. It's a movie that is so well done, and at 3 hours, it never feels like 3 hours. It is a consistently riveting and well-crafted work, and for the life of me, I will never understand how, even despite the making of featurettes, how Nolan pulled this off. The fact that it was done practically is just an incredible feat in itself. But the movie is riveting thanks to its phenomenal performances from Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Matt Damon. Everybody is so good here, and even the ones that don't get much screen time are so great in this movie, like Jason Clarke, Rami Malek. This movie was absolutely exceptional, and it definitely deserves to be right on top of this list as the best movie I've seen all of 2023. I haven't seen every movie. I didn't get to Zone of Interest. I didn't get to a few other things. I really wanted to check those out, but I unfortunately couldn't. Wow, what a year. I mean, really, this movie year was genuinely something else. I can't wait to see you guys in 2024. Have a wonderful new year. Hope you guys enjoyed this video as long as it went. I do apologize for that. That was a lot to say, obviously. Thank you so much as always for watching. Thank you for being here for this entire year. Thank you for all of the support and all of the love. I really appreciate it. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much once again, and I will see you guys at the movies.